Hey everybody, it's your boy John, and today's episode is now part 3 of the MCU, series that we're doing here. And again, we're going to be talking about the changes that the MCU has made and some of the stuff that basically what could have been, but really is now not happening because that's just how the MCU does it. But anyways, stay tuned. What's up, y'all? This is your boy John, and as always with me is Matty Boy.
What's up? What's up? Also known as Mr. Grumpy Beard.
Yeah, well, we're working that title. No, I'm just kidding. I'm working on mine. I don't know if I want to still be called Wicked Ripper or not. I'm still throwing ideas out here, but we'll figure it out. Anyways, guys, today's episode, as we already talked about, is going to be the part 3 of the MCU, series that we're doing. But really, it's all about the changes that the MCU has made. And the fact that they decided to really, screw with the comic book history in a sense and what really should have happened, because the reality is that even all the events that we've seen so far, including like Endgame and Civil War and all these other things that we'll be talking about here and there, the reality is just a lot of it didn't make any sense, because there's so much stories. I mean, honestly, you could have had the Avengers saga in a sense. It could have been going on for it could have been well past 2030. It could have been easily in that realm. And also, you could have had a lot more characters. Literally, what they could have done is literally just said, okay, we're going to start from A to Z and just fucking all these characters, boom. And then could have had this epic, really long, whatever. But nope. They decided that's not what they're going to do. And they decided to make all these saga phases and everything else. And then here we are today talking about what they should have done versus what they now have done. So anyways, guys, before we go on, we want to mention this again, as always, that, of course, with YouTube, again, we're looking to try to expand more and do all this stuff. So one of the things that Matt is so kindly have done is recently starting to do clips of our, kind of like what we've done with Geeky Shorts in a sense, but I would say more, hopefully entertaining, or basically ways to show you guys hey, there's, kind of that little clip of what we talk about in that sense, but also kind of say, hey, we're also not just talking about certain things, but, kind of have funny moments. I call them little bloopers, the little things that we talk about from time to time, so keep an eye on those. You'll probably see them occasionally, from time to time, only on YouTube though. You're not going to see them on Spotify or, any other platform. So just keep an eye on those. And again, just remember to, like and subscribe, of course, could throw those comments out, just like Alcoholic Beards in the last episode, right? It was a nice little, tribute that, of course, a brand new fan was hey, I've been late to the show here, but I'm glad that you guys are doing what you're doing. I like that stuff, that's kind of the stuff that we're hey, you know what? Keep it going, man. Keep it showing the love, baby. That's what we like to hear.
And more in particular, we do need your comments on who is winning each week of these super fights, because we just don't, some of the time, last week, we just don't know. I mean, I say that I won.
He kept saying it, and I keep debating that. I think
we really need you to comment. You can do it right in Spotify, and you can do it in YouTube, but we just really need your comments on who you think won the round of Super Fight. So, last week, I had a naked clown with laser nipples.
Right, and I had a meth addict with basically web shooters out of my ass or anus and hypodermic needles that I could just poke basically Matt with in this case. Again, I understand Matt keeps saying it. I still think he cheated in some ways, but whatever. That's just me.
I'm not cheating. I
keep
laser
cheating.
Nipples, so hey.
But again, this is why you guys decide. This is not us. It's we debate. That doesn't mean that we're always right. So you guys decide and you let us know.
You need to help us out. So But we are doing round 3 of Super Fight, so
that's right, baby.
We are continuing our The Boys sponsored Super Fight.
Okay, we're gonna mention this stuff. The Boys, the TV show. Okay, we're not actually sponsored by them. We just want to make that clear. We're just using it as a gag because we're just saying that this is a really fucked up version of what we're playing in the game.
Tremendously messed up, yes.
I love how you keep saying that. I just say fucked up. It's okay.
I'll do what I want to do.
Oh, fine. You do whatever.
All right. So I do have the location card for round 3. So if you want to know where we are,
I would love to know because I don't hope it's not The Shining again.
No, but we're probably just as fucked.
Okay. Was it worse than the first week or is it just as bad or what are we talking?
It's pretty bad.
Okay. Well, then why don't you spit it out?
Silent Hill.
The problem is I know that it's a town. I know that. So the whole town is fucked in a sense. It's not just one place, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're between you have like the giant dude with the triangle thing on his head, who, he's got the, I don't know if it's like a large sledgehammer thing that
you got me on that one, bud.
But there's there's various things that are going to kill us in Silent Hill.
So basically, not only do we have to worry about, trying to kill each other, I guess, in a sense, we're now having to worry about more shit that we have to worry about. So
yes,
it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be
wonderful.
Wonderful.
So why don't, no, hold on. Oh, no, you don't. I'm going to start off with.
Oh, you're going to start off. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I can tell by the look on your face that it's not a great.
You're going to. Sorry, I know that was just gibberish for a second. Let's just say the character. Oh God, this is a very, very detailed animated character. Well, I'm just going to say it. Japanese anime porn tentacle monster.
Okay.
See, look, I'll even show you the card.
Japanese anime porn what is a porn
tentacle monster?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Why don't you look up Japanese porn and you'll tell me what it is?
I am not going down that
I figured you would. Yeah, weirdo. Anyways, go for it.
Gosh.
Oh, please go ahead and enlighten me, man.
Of all the cards, I have Nicolas fucking Cage.
Oh, great. Regular human. Just
a regular person. Just Nicolas fucking Cage.
Well, I can already tell you the porn tentacle monster might have a clear advantage on this one, but we'll see about the powers.
We'll see about the powers. Let's see.
Okay, go ahead, because I'll let you go and do that. What does Nicolas Cage have? Please, because it's already great in my space.
Oh, I don't know how that's even possible, but... All right, so the first one, he has a literal fire crotch.
I don't know.
So is he like Ghost Rider, except his head's not on fire, it's his crotch?
Is it Riders of the Storm? Is he just like ready to go at all times? I don't know.
And the second one, I mean, apparently I can pull any weapon out of my anus.
That's okay. Interesting. I love how you can pull any weapon out of your asshole. So you're telling me if you wanted to, I don't know, let's say a rocket launcher, you're telling me that shit's coming right out of your asshole, like real quick, because you also have a fire crotch as well.
I have a fire crotch, yes.
I really don't know what to say about this one because I don't know how a monster would technically have this. So I'm just going to start off with this. Okay. It says pubic hair that can stretch and move at will. That's one of the powers.
Pubic hair.
Again, a tentacle monster. Don't know how it has pubic hair.
How does I don't know.
Are you fucking serious? I'm sorry. This is the dumbest. This is literally the dumbest card. I don't know why this is even in the deck. Okay, and I'm going to say this. Ready? Can only be killed by teabagging. It's literally like, what?
Wow, and I have fire crotch.
Can only be killed by teabagging. So, Matt, since I know you're lovely typing over there.
Yeah.
I don't know what about, because I know we're more focusing on the fact that we have to talk about a Japanese anime porn tentacle monster whose pubic hair can be stretched and moved at will, can also only be killed by teabagging versus Nicolas Cage, who can pull any weapon out of his asshole and has a fire crotch.
A fire crotch.
Fire crotch.
Yes.
So, would you like to say anything?
Well, I mean, it's really one of those weird things where I have to really think like, is there? It's really a weird question.
Of course, this whole fucking scenario is a weird question.
But is there a limit on the size of the weapon that I can pull out of my my anus?
I mean, is it going to kill you? That's the question. I don't know. Because all weapons could probably kill you no matter what. Okay, I'm gonna do something that I probably shouldn't do, but I had to kind of understand what it is that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at a very disturbing. I don't know what you're doing, but mine's very disturbing.
I'm not looking up Japanese porn type.
Let's just say that
Tentacle monsters
did, and yeah, it's going down a rabbit hole right now, and it's not looking pretty.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's not looking pretty.
I'm sure. So
yeah, we're not gonna. Thank God we're not actually showing this live, because that would have been a terrible
no. This is obviously we wouldn't ever show. I mean, I guess if I could pull any weapon out of my anus.
No, out of your asshole, because
it clearly says anus, so I'm going to use the word anus.
I'm just using the fucked up way of saying it, so just say asshole. It's okay.
I would want. I mean, one, you can only be killed, obviously, with teabagging.
Okay.
So I would have to try to at least eliminate the tentacles.
Okay, you're right.
Like
you have to try.
I would have to try. I would have to at least try to get you, somehow.
What? Just decapitated? Like you just stop everything?
Because I also don't know how large of a creature that you are.
I can tell you from what I looked at, it's not a. I guess it depends on, what way you're looking at. I can tell you from what I saw, it's a lot bigger than what you think. Like, I mean, we're talking at least like, I don't know, 10 feet, 15 feet, maybe. Like a pretty decent size. I'm not saying it's just like a little thing. Like it's a pretty big thing. The problem is it depends on. There's so many different versions. I don't really know what. I guess I would just go with a 10 to 15 foot monster creature that has tentacles. It probably has like, I don't know, probably like 10 tentacles or so, at least. I mean, and God knows if I can regenerate them or not. I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions I don't even know about that. So there's just so many things here.
So, I mean, I can pull any weapon out of my anus. And we're doing an episode on Marvel. I'm gonna pull this one out.
Well, what the Infinity Gauntlet?
And there's no pun intended there. But I'm gonna pull this one out.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, the thing I literally just said a second ago.
Because I think that would probably be the most strongest thing that I could use to, one, I mean, yes, you can only be killed by teabagging, but I could literally change you into anything, or change you from being huge to really, really small. And with my fire crotch, all I got to do then is hold you down and teabag you. And you're dead.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But let's say if I found a way to get you, right? Because I could hold you down
with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Hold on, no, it's gonna sound weird because this is going down a really disturbing path that I have, and it unfortunately is the only way this could happen. If I found a way to hold you down and basically take a tentacle and shove it up your ass and then make nothing come out of your ass, and basically also have the pubic hair, make sure you're nice and tied down, I could probably just take my other tentacles, wrap it around your fucking neck, and probably choke you to death and really make you, dead in a second. But that's, again, it's a weird concept. I understand.
This is where, in the actual episode that we're actually talking about, and this is one of the things that we're actually talking about, where the MCU has changed how the Infinity Gauntlet works. Because in the comics, I don't need to snap. The way the Infinity Gauntlet worked in the comics was it worked by simply thinking the thought. That's how it worked in the comics. And that's what obviously that's what I would go with. Not the ridiculous way that the MCU has used it, because that's kind of silly, but I would want to go straight comic book with it. And obviously, if I was able to actually pull this thing out of my ass, I don't think that you would even have the chance, because as soon as I think the thought, it's instantly reality.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just saying it depends on the scenario. It depends on what it happens. Like I said, there's so many that,
and it doesn't say that I have to teabag you. I could literally summon a huge fucking ball sack and have it fucking teabag you from the sky if I wanted to.
I mean, if you wanted to get real creative with it, you sure could. Like I said,
I'm Nicolas fucking Cage, kid.
I'm Nicolas Cage, bitch. Like, it's just, it's not Rick James. No, Nicolas Cage, bitch. Like, no, again, Matt, this is why I said that these fights can be very either one-sided, or they can have multiple different variables that you don't know. Like I said,
it's really tough when I can pull any weapon out of my anus. You know what I mean? Like I
get that.
Even if I didn't choose like the Infinity Gauntlet, like I could pull any weapon. I mean, you're talking anything magical, or even if it was, you're saying like, well, you can't pull anything from comic books, or it has to be real world. I mean, you're a freaking Japanese anime, so that doesn't even make sense at that rate. But
just saying.
Then I would probably go with like any kind of, I mean, I don't think I would go atomic bomb, because then that would kill me too. But we're also talking that we're in Silent Hill.
I mean, if we're based on a location, we're already having to worry about a lot of shit.
Right. And with the Infinity Gauntlet, I'm good. Doesn't matter where I am, because then I can teleport my way out of there.
You could. You absolutely could. I mean, I guess
I would be God in Silent Hill.
Well, I mean, for me,
Nicolas fucking Cage is God in Silent Hill.
I'm Nicolas Cage, bitch. Like, I'm fucking God up in here. No, I mean, the only thing about this anime porn tentacle monster thing, I don't know if Silent Hill had like water, like a body of water.
I don't believe. I mean, I know it was a town, but I don't think it. I mean, it was like a ghost town, so I don't think it had like a body of water,
or even just a river or anything water related.
I mean, it could have, but
I don't know. I mean, because if it's a tentacle monster, I'm thinking more like, if I could swim the fuck away, in that sense, I could probably get away with all my tentacles and shit like that. Because, if I'm good at swimming, maybe, I don't fucking know. Because we're also talking about porn here, so I don't really know what exactly this thing is good at. So, again, there's so many questions I don't know, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it at, like, just to see if it sticks on the wall or not. But, like, I guess at the end of the day, it's like, yes, could I see you? Yes, pulling out anything out of your ass and fucking doing whatever the fuck you want? Sure, you're right. But if the only way you have to kill me is by teabagging, man, yes, anything. If you decided to use the Infinity Gauntlet, or you fucking force somebody to fucking or if you like point a gun at somebody, like fucking teabag them right now, like you could try.
You know what? I am gonna force that huge giant dude with the triangle thing on his head to teabag you. That's what I'm gonna do.
That's what you're gonna do.
I'm going to literally like
say, "Fuck you, bitch! You better fucking teabag this motherfucker right now." Okay, guys. I'm
At the end of the day, John, you're getting teabagged. That's it.
okay.
You know what?
You keep saying that.
Hey, that could be your new handle. Teabagged.
What, Mr. Teabags? You got Mr. Grumpy Beard and Mr. Teabags?
Mr. Teabags.
How do you like your tea, puppet? With a crumpet on the side, or
with a bit of pubic hair?
how about a ball stuck right on you? How about that? Anyways, guys, because I got to move on from this conversation. This is just getting fucking weird.
It's getting weird.
Can you let us know, please? Because I feel like the more we talk about it, it's going to be like the last episode, and we're just going to sit here and try to debate anything that's going to come and really go right here. But
I mean, honestly, I don't think you're. I don't think you're a weird porn tentacle monster.
Look, you say, I gave you a scenario.
All I think about is like weird Japanese porn things happening and tentacles.
Trust me, I'm telling you, it is some weird shit. When
on my side, I just see like the crazy eye, like Nicolas Cage with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Like, trust me, I'm not saying any of this is going to make sense or do whatever. This is why Superfight can be so unpredictable. Now, granted, we're doing a rated R version of this, but like we're
yeah. I mean, if it was like if we had 3 or 4 people with us, obviously we'd have more of like a jury that would decide who would win, and obviously they would choose me because I have an Infinity Gauntlet. But
you say that, but we'll see.
But that, comment on the video. Let us know who won. It's me. But
see, and this is why I keep saying Matt thinks he keeps winning, but he's also cheating. So this is just why I keep saying he's cheating.
I don't know why you keep saying I'm cheating. I got the same pick of cards that you did.
Yeah, so, well, I think you've already rigged this, and you wanted me to choose certain cards, and this is where it is.
The cards were laid out in front of you, bro.
You're right, but you already chose the cards beforehand.
I aligned the cards so that they were more suitable for fighting.
But you saw the cards
before I shuffled them.
Okay. But you had no idea.
I had no idea when I placed them down which ones were which.
Okay. You say that. I think you memorized them. That's just me.
Nope.
Uh-huh. Sure, we'll go with that. But anyways, guys, I know we're going to go into some other stuff here, and I feel like you guys need to decide on who won and whatever else, right? Just let us know. I know this is probably one of the weirdest ones we've had so far. This is definitely up there.
So far. Yeah.
Even the last one is, I'm not saying it's just as weird, but this one's probably one of the weirdest ones.
Yeah. I mean, they've all been pretty
pretty
weird, but yeah.
This one's probably taking the cake on that one so far. But anyways, guys.
We still have one more to go.
Yes, which next week, hopefully, which is, in this case, of course, both of us would have already seen it in the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And so with that being said, yes, that is when we'll be talking about the review and, kind of giving our thoughts on it, as well as, guess what? It's going to be a spoiler alert. So if you haven't already seen the damn movie, well, then don't listen to the damn podcast at that point. You better see it and then maybe listen to it afterwards.
Well, if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, it's by the end of Sunday. I believe right now when I looked at it, it was pretty much right now at 940 something million.
I already told you it's going to hit $1 billion. It's going to go past it.
At the end of Sunday, they're estimating it's going to be, I believe, 1.3 million or billion.
Yeah, I was going to say billion.
Yeah, so it's at the end of Sunday, it's supposed to be estimated at 1.3 billion.
The movie hasn't been out.
1.0.
The problem is it's only been out for like a couple weeks.
This is the second week, yeah. This is the second weekend.
Well, right, but my point is it's already almost hitting $1 billion in literally less than 2 weeks. That's saying a lot.
Right.
You're telling me if I wouldn't be surprised if it hits almost 2. If it hits 2, then I'm like, this is 7.
I don't think it'll hit 2, but it'll definitely get to the 1.2, 1.3. But I mean, right now, like I said, by the end of Sunday, it'll be at probably close to like 1.03, 1.05.
I'm just saying. I think by the end of when this is all done, I think it'll be very friggin' close to being 2. I think it'll be close.
I don't think it'll be that close. But
I mean, again, we never know. We're only talking about 2 weeks. Let's see about a few months, and we'll go from there.
I mean, the usual weekends, like the weekends, it's getting usually about somewhere between 20 and 30 million, like during the weekend. During the weeks, it's probably about 10 or 15.
Okay, but you're still looking at almost, I mean, close to 50 million each week, give or take. Close to. I'm not saying exactly, but like you're still.
Yeah, but I mean,
talking about a few
it's
months.
obviously not going to run forever either.
No, it'll probably last. Typical, as long as it does well, it's probably like what, 3-4 months ish, give or take. I would say at least 3, usually.
Probably, I think usually it's like 16 weeks. Usually, I think.
Oh, so like 4 months. Yeah. So like I said, 3-4 months. You know, that's what I would think. But anyways, guys, we're talking about future stuff here. But anyways, so let's get into it. So with the whole
some changes that MCU has made from the comic books
versus
Yeah.
Anyways, what we're going to be talking about now, real quick, is the Infinity Stones.
Yes, right? This was one of the biggest changes. I mean, there's been a lot of changes, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You can look at the characters, you can look at different things, but like when they did the Infinity Stones, I think that this was like one of the biggest changes, because with the MCU, they created this like price or a requirement to use the Infinity Stones in the Gauntlet, and they made like the stakes much higher. So like there's a certain cost that we've seen, you know, obviously in Endgame, we've seen the cost. If you're not powerful enough, and even if you are like the Hulk and Thanos, if you are powerful enough to use the Gauntlet, it takes a heavy toll, so you can't just like use it a second time.
Right. It's like a one-way ticket. Like that's it. Like can't use it anymore. One and done. And the one thing I will mention too, real quick, is that, you know, when you look at like the MCU version of how they use the Gauntlet and whatnot, right? So you're looking at all the different stones. I mean, granted, you know, it's more like they were placed into objects or different, like the Tesseract, right? Being if I'm not mistaken, was it the Mind Stone or was it the Power Stone?
It was power. Well,
was it technically teleportation? It was really the Tesseract, what it was meant to do. But like, I
want to say the Tesseract was power, but I could be mistaken.
But you look at the Tesseract, you look at Loki's scepter, you look at trying to remember all the it was in Thor the second movie. It was like the red,
the
Aether, yeah, like that, like, and then that becomes like Power was in I believe in Guardians.
That's the purple.
It was the purple. Yeah. So I mean the different stones, right? So it's like you look at all of them, the time stone, like being in, you know, Amagato, you know, what looks like an eye, but it's Agamotto.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, so like there was different. It basically was like in objects, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if that's technically the same in the comics per se. Like if they were in objects or if they were just literally stones that were just.
No, I
scattered.
mean for a long time, like, I mean, Vision was created in the MCU, so Vision wasn't, I believe, a character that existed in the comics.
Oh, he was in the comics. I don't think he had the
no, because it was always. We just talked about him too. Adam Warlock.
Oh yes, Adam Warlock. Yes,
Adam Warlock was the one for a long time that had the Mind Stone.
Yes, but I know that technically, yes, Vision in the comics was an actual character. He just didn't have the Mind Stone inside of him.
But I mean, even the creation of who Vision was in the MCU is different, I believe, because he wasn't created from like Jarvis and.
Oh no! So that's the thing. So technically, the one who made Vision, or really in like not even. Actually, I'll even go further. Like, wow, why can't? What the hell is his name? I'm literally drawing a blank here, and it's dumb. Ultron. Sorry, the one who made Ultron was actually not even, Bruce Banner and Tony Stark. It was actually, it was technically Tony Stark and Hank Pym who originally made Ultron and that kind of version of it. But Bruce Banner never really had anything to do with it, so that's why I was like, that's another little innuendo there. But anyways, like, with Vision, it's like, yeah, he's a very powerful, AI kind of, robotic humanoid looking thing, but it was like, what I will say that the MCU did at least do kind of right in that sense is like, at least with some of the characters, like I know when you look at like WandaVision, and I know it's kind of a random example, but like I love how they did bring back, even like for like a little split second when they brought back like the old style comic, outfits that they were wearing, like, when Wanda was wearing hers and Vision kind of wore his. Like I like that they decided to go kind of back to their roots in a sense. Like it was nice to see that, but like, yeah, like I would say that most characters even now, like are the ones that you did see. It's not like you saw Iron Man wearing like that ugly mustard red, suit that he fucking had in the very, very olden days. But like he had like the Mach 1, or was it, what do they call it? The MK1 or something like the very first one that he had.
Yeah.
And like, Thor's was of course a lot different. Hulk's, Hulk kind of basically just had purple pants. That was about it. And he was green.
I mean, he started gray, but...
Well, started gray and then turned green because, wait, what happened, Matt? Why was he gray in the beginning? I know you know this. I know this, but do you know what happened?
I'm drawing a blank.
Because in the original version of Hulk, it was a misprint. Because it was a misprint because they did it originally was gray.
I believe it was because they didn't have the colors or something. It was
something to do with the colors, but right. And then they went with the green instead of doing gray.
Yeah.
But they do have a gray version, but that's another story. But like, anyways, like with the Infinity Gauntlet and with, the stones and everything else, it almost seems like, the movies, their journey was literally actually pretty much all the Avengers movies basically leading up, all the different characters were basically focusing on, these stones. But the thing is Tony had, in the movies, like had a vision of like, okay, well, he saw it, but he didn't know really what it was. Like he knew something about it, but he had no idea, kind of a deal. Yeah. And like, all of a sudden you see, Thanos. Like what I found interesting is like when you look in the beginning of like the MCU and you saw all the Easter eggs, everyone's like, what the hell is this? And then you saw Thanos. Now, granted, it was weird that when you saw him the very first time in the MCU, he was a very like very bright purple, like weird version of himself, and you're like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is this motherfucker? The purple fucking being, like he's like has a grin on his face, and I'm like, what kind of fucking shit is this? And all of a sudden, then you see like Josh Brolin later on, and he actually looks like him, and now he's like a paler version, purple. It's not even that bright ass purple that you saw.
Right.
So again, I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but like, it just seems that with the gauntlet. And, using the powers, like, yes, technically, in the MCU version of using the gauntlet, it's like if you didn't have one or the other, like, you're right. Like, if you just had the stones in if your hands and you're just holding them, they would be fucking useless to you. Like, it was either one or the other. Like, you couldn't just use one or do whatever. Like, it's just weird because when you start to look at that, it's like, they made the gauntlet to like, okay, we're going to personify now. Granted, he only had a couple stones at that time, right? Because once he had the Tesseract, he broke it, boom, he put one stone in, and he's like, oh, I feel powerful. Okay, well, cool, good for you, bro. But like, there was only so much, like once he got them all, yes, of course he started to feel that power, and it was like, okay, well, what do I do and how do I do it? How do you... kind of build up that story. So like, of course, that's what they were doing is kind of like, they show him kind of do like certain things like, oh, I have like a couple stones, and they show him in like some of the Easter eggs. That's cool. But like comics, he's like, no, I'm like, of course he's probably going after them real quickly and getting them as quick as he fucking can without having to like take this amount of time to get to that point.
Yeah. And obviously the comics is different because the cost for using the gauntlet and the stones being much higher and the toll that it takes. Like in the comics, everybody, I mean, you're talking like the Punisher could use it. Any normal human could use it. Like anybody that was anybody in Marvel could and has probably at one point used the gauntlet. And that was kind of like how they used it in the comics. Like anybody could use it because it didn't have that like cost or requirement to use it. Like you had to be some super being to use the gauntlet. Like it's basically like if you had the gauntlet, you could use it.
Well, and I also feel like I feel like the one thing that they also didn't realize too was that with the Soul Stone, right? Because now I'm going to mention Adam Warlock in a little bit here, but like, technically the Soul Stone had its own, I guess, little world inside of the actual stone. So people were actually being held in the comic books inside of the stone. They could have used it, but all they did in the MCU was like, oh, well, you have to sacrifice the one you love in order to get the stone. So that was like that kind of toll as well, because that was the only stone that required you to give up something,
right?
In that sense. So it's like, it's not like the others were like, okay, well, you need to jump off a literal bridge so that way you could get this stone over here. It's like, no, like that. What? That doesn't make any sense. Why am I grabbing this fucking stone then? Like, but that's kind of what they did with the Soul Stone in this. It's like, okay, well, push the one you love off a fucking cliff. Okay, well then get me the stone. That's literally, think about it. I mean, right? Isn't that what they did on Vormir? They just basically, Thanos is like, okay, see ya. And like all of a sudden he just lands in the giant fucking lake and all of a sudden he sees the stone in his hand. That's it. Like, it's not like an epic story. It's just basically saying, okay, well, he loved Gamora. Bye. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean it's one. I mean the MCU version is definitely like it's shown to be much weaker than the comic book counterpart, because in the comic books, like the Infinity Gauntlet had no limits to what you could do with it. I mean,
I would assume by itself probably, but like, what about? Well, I mean, of course, when it was together, of course you're going to have it. But if let's say he had no stones in there. Like, could you do anything with it, or is it just basically?
I think most times when we're talking the Infinity Gauntlet, they have the stones in it.
Well, if let's say they didn't, that's why I was asking. Like,
well, then the individual stones would be whoever had the individual stones. But
I'm just saying
we're talking the gauntlet with the stones. I mean, that's
with every
what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to know.
I mean, I mean, we just talked about the last episode. The Silver Surfer literally like created a reality where it was paradise. So I mean,
right. I mean, whoever, it's basically like, I've said it before, but like in one of the episodes I've said, it was like the beauty is in the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Let me try that again. It's kind of that same concept of like whatever you see or whatever this person's holding, it's like you're going to make whatever a reality or this is what it's going to be. Yeah. Like if you think it.
So it didn't cause damage to or harm to like the wielder of the gauntlet. And it didn't also react. It like reacted to thought and not, it didn't need someone to like physically snap to make it work. Like it's such a silly thing. Like you're talking about a weapon like the Infinity Gauntlet that not just Thanos, but also Hulk used it and Iron Man used it. And apparently they only work when you go like this.
Like that? Or like just thinking it?
Because that's the only apparently way that they work. And that's not how the comic books showed it. The comic book showed it by thought.
Technically, in some of the, like when you saw Thanos doing certain things, he didn't snap every time.
Well, no, because he wasn't using all the stones at once. He was using individual stones to do certain things.
Right, but I'm just saying, though, like technically if he was like, okay, I want to change the reality around me. So like when he made like...
Right, but that's when he was using individual stones. And we're talking like when they're using the gauntlet to do certain things and they're using all of the stones, they don't need to snap or do certain things to make the gauntlet work.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying.
It's kind of like the MCU kind of established, like, you need to do a physical kind of thing to make it, like...
No, I mean, you got to make it work in that sense, yes.
So, I mean, I definitely think that the stones are, like, considerably less, like, infinite than they are in the comics. Like, they're not, like... You're not truly able to do everything that you can do with the gauntlet that you could do in the comics. Like in the comics, Nebula, I mean, most of us know who Nebula is. She went basically from a walking corpse to a supreme being when she got the gauntlet.
I mean,
and kind of like what they set up was like, if you have the gauntlet, like you pretty much can only be defeated because your own psyche is flawed, which is how Thanos in the comic books was defeated, because he was pretty much flawed in the comic books and didn't use the gauntlet the way that
It was intended to.
it was intended to. The difference with the Thanos that was in the MCU is that he was a true believer and he didn't leave room for doubt on his own righteousness. So if you take that MCU Thanos and you put that Thanos in the comic book,
You would have won.
Endgame would have been 100% successful. Like it would have been absolute. Like,
Yeah, there's nothing you could have done. There would have been literally nothing you could have changed.
and I would even go further to say like every single one of those Avengers Marvel heroes would be toast.
Well, they'd be dead. They would.
They wouldn't even be dead. They would fail to exist.
Well, that's what I mean. They wouldn't be around anymore. They'd be like, snap, bye bye. No, but
You know, because the comic Thanos was like such a tangled mess of like resentment, insecurities, self-loathing. He yearned for acceptance. He was just like not the same character that he was in the MCU. And he was more, I think, afraid of losing that like true omnipotence of having the gauntlet than he was of like really trying to use it for the purpose that he had it for, which is where he failed the most, because he did have like those resentments and insecurities. And the MCU version, he was like really super focused and he knew exactly what he wanted. And there was no doubt that this is exactly what he was doing.
well, I know we kind of already mentioned this before, but like, you know, with really the only other person that could have stopped Thanos in this case, you know, regarding the Infinity, you know, saga, really the comics in there. Like I said, the reason why I'm mentioning, we've already mentioned, you know, Adam Warlock. There's a reason why he's a very important, you know, character of the story, because
Well, the Avengers beat Thanos in this story.
no, right. But I'm just saying that, but he also had an important part. Now, granted, he also took over the gauntlet at one point. Like I know he did in the story, like in the comics, like he took over the gauntlet and was trying to basically do his own thing. And he's like, oh, you're not worthy of basically wearing this gauntlet. I am, you know, because he was thinking more of a god, like, and he was saying like, oh, I'm the more powerful one, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, because then again, he almost like had like an ego boost of whatever you want to call it. And that's why he was starting to, if I'm not mistaken, that's when he started putting like the heroes and whatever. And I'm pretty sure even villains just like inside the Soul Stone in that time. But again, that was like a different thing. And that's why I'm saying there's so many little things like that where, again, when you make fucking Adam Warlock in the MCU version a dumb asshole who doesn't do a damn thing, and that really he just basically finds out he's like, oh well, I'm gonna, you know, fuck shit up because these assholes.
I'm a gold douchebag.
I'm a little good old douchebag who doesn't do shit. It's like, great, you mentioned me one time and then you turn into a big giant fucking dummy. You're like,
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying, it's just like that kind of stuff. It just drives us nuts.
I mean, definitely the way that the Infinity Stones were used was. I mean, do they need to be all powerful in the MCU? No, I don't think that they do. I think you could have made them not as powerful, but I think you could have. There should have been like a happy medium somewhere within there, instead of like kind of making it really that super tight with how how it was being used, where it's pretty much like you either use it and you're dead, or you just have this thing on your arm that you can never fucking use. I mean, essentially, if Tony Stark had this thing on his arm and he just refused to use it because it was going to kill him, he would essentially have the most expensive, powerful piece of jewelry in the universe.
Well, it's true. I mean,
right? Like,
granted, and then if, for example, like if we're talking about that too, so if he was in the MCU, again, he's like, oh, well, I'm going to use it and potentially I'm going to die. So that's what he did. Of course, he's dead. But like, if we're talking about comics, if he was the one to use it, he's clearly not going to die from it. It's more just...
Yeah, he's definitely not going to die from it, and he wouldn't have to snap, and it would have just been done, and he probably just could have made it a permanent part of his armor if he wanted to keep it there.
If he wanted to. If not, then he could have just said... Or just found a way to
literally nobody would be able to do anything about it.
It's true. And so, like, that's the thing. It's like, you look at that, those little kind of minute details, and this is where I said, we both said that the MCU has basically kind of picked and choose what they wanted, and they made their own story, and we're like, hey, you know what, we're going to keep certain things, and we're going to make it really interesting. And so, like, why don't we make, this is how Tony dies. Like, this is the end. Bye-bye. See you later. Like, and this is how he's going to die. Really? Like, yeah. That's it? That he just snaps and, okay, I'm dead. See you later, guys. Like, that's, okay, here's my funeral and a Viking funeral down the, path that he's already fired. I'm like, guys, what is going on here? Why are we killing him off so quickly?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. But I know the next guy.
Oh, the next one is. We've talked about him a little bit in the last episode, but
no, hold on. Not even just in the last episode. We've talked about him in the past.
We've talked about the Hulk a lot, and I think this time we're really kind of digging deep into this one because in this one we really are talking about a lot of like the powers and the things that Hulk can do, because the Hulk, like we said in the last episode, has never been used to his full capability, and he has a lot of things that the Hulk can do that I think hasn't really been shown.
We've talked about it before, but like if you took literally some things from like Eric Bana's version, and then took some things from literally Edward Norton's, and then did it with Mark Ruffalo.
You have to go deeper than that.
No, I know. I was just scratching it for a second. I'm just saying, but there's some of the, basically it's more the abilities. If there's certain abilities that you see in some of the height differences and so on. There's so many things here that you'd have to like literally start to look at. The fact like in the first one, or really with Eric Bana, it's like, yeah, he could jump from fucking... Literally, I don't even know how far, but I know it's miles. Like it literally, he could just jump, and all of a sudden it's like, and he's just flying, right? But like when you see him in the MCU, he's just like, it's like he's only doing short distances. It's not like it's a full on like I'm going miles and I'm just jumping from one spot to, and then just keeps running as he's jumping. Literally, as far as he literally could have. I'm not saying he's like the fastest person, but like. He could do some distance.
We'll get there because he does it from the comic books. He does have he is pretty fast. But the very first ability is his regenerative powers, which he in the comic books which comes from Incredible Hulk number 397, and most of these all have like numbers and stuff. I think I might have gotten rid of some of them, but he has the most effective regenerative abilities in the Marvel Comics universe. Like he could replicate his entire infrastructure from the skeleton, like quite literally. So his healing factor is actually better than Wolverine's.
I'm only surprised because if I'm not mistaken, Wolverine was literally just a pile of blood and then still regenerated back to himself.
Yeah. So this is where, like in the MCU, when he snapped from that Infinity Gauntlet, he should have instantly healed from the damage he got from that Infinity Gauntlet. Because like it's literally better than Wolverine's. So he should not have continued on through the whole next movie, an Endgame with that stupid brace thing that he had.
No, I agree with you.
You have a regeneration that's better than Wolverine's, and Wolverine's is pretty good.
Or it's, at least I would say it's second. Yeah. It's easily second. So besides maybe Deadpool, because those two are like neck and neck.
Super strength, we've talked about this one, but his strength increases as he gets angrier.
Which we have already mentioned multiple times.
His prime strength level is potentially incalculable. He has moved mountains with a weight of 150 billion tons. And that's not even his greatest level of strength or anger.
And that's why I said when we said that he's held a planet together, he has teared open a black hole.
He broke fucking Silver Surfer's surfboard,
which is pretty.
Nobody has ever done that except for the Hulk.
But that's my point, guys. Like, if we're talking about a next level strength that literally no one, I don't think, can ever match that.
Incalculable.
And that, well, okay, so this is the part this is actually something I didn't know. But, like, you know, I kind of mentioned that already with the kind of like that super speed here. But, like, so despite being, you know, a big guy here, you know, he's up, which I didn't realize he was this fast, but he's lightning fast reflexes and can reach speeds up to 770 miles per hour. In one comic, he was fast enough to tag Quicksilver, which is very damn impressive because that motherfucker could run. And like you're telling me that he can catch up with him and it's no problem?
He can tag Quicksilver. And that's
saying something.
Yeah.
And Quicksilver, I mean, even when you see him in the MCU, and granted, it's like Matt's favorite. It's always the slow motion running, even though we know that that's not really.
But at least he doesn't do the gay ass running like the Flash in that fucking movie, like the weird like.
Like, what do I do with my hands?
Oh, I can't stand that.
I know. That's why we don't talk about the Flash, even though it's one of his other favorite characters.
All right, so durability and invulnerability. This is kind of one of my favorite ones. Hulk's skin is impervious to conventional blades, adamantium and vibranium being strictly the few known metals that can effectively pierce and penetrate his skin. This invulnerability extends to the optic system since bullets, grenade, shrapnel, Hawkeye's arrows, and even Valkyrie's enchanted blade, Dragon Fang, did not penetrate or damage it.
Well, so yes, adamantium and vibranium. So I know we talked about, I think it was more of a conversation him and I had outside, but like, you know, how in one of the trailers recently with the, you know, Brave New World, A Brave New World. No, I'm sorry. That was Matt's favorite song here. Sorry. You know, like Falcon throws the fucking shield and it doesn't do a damn thing to him. No,
I mean, the Red Hulk just catches it and throws it into the ground.
No, but I'm just saying though, but like reality is if that is one of the very other few things, you know, could he, I mean, maybe I'm not saying he shouldn't.
You're also talking about Sam Wilson, who's throwing.
I know,
and not
Cap. I understand. If it was Cap, it would have been maybe a different story.
Not the real Captain America.
Not the real America's ass. Sorry,
but yes, you know, adamantium and vibranium being the only metals that can really pierce the skin of the Hulk. But the Hulk is capable of withstanding high caliber bullets, powerful energy blasts, pressure extremes, falls from orbital heights, maximized heat without blistering, maximized cold without freezing, also massive impacts.
So when I mean massive impacts, I'm thinking even from the orbital heights, I'm thinking from like outer fucking space kind of a deal.
Yes, and I would say massive impacts, I would say that's probably like maybe like your like meteorites falling on you or like something massive falling on them, yeah. And
that's the thing. Like you look at the comics, you look at like animated series and stuff like that, or even movies that they are animated movies. Not so much now. Literally, there's so much shit that gets thrown at him, and literally he just usually he does one of these. He like gets hit, and then he's like skaboosh, and he just like punches it out, and then he just like, oh, you want to go? Let's go again. Like it just keeps going.
even if it did hurt him, I mean, you still have the regenerative abilities of you know. He would regenerate almost instantly, and then he'd be fine. But
I know
several times he's like withstood the impact of a ground zero nuclear explosion.
Well, he's gamma radiation, for God's sake.
Human Torch's Nova Blast that has a maximum temperature of 1 million degrees Fahrenheit.
I don't even want to begin. I mean, listen, when we already talk about 100 degrees Fahrenheit already being so freaking hot, we're talking a million degrees.
1 million degrees, yeah.
You ever felt that before? No, you'd be dead. You'd be way beyond
and
dead.
And then the crushing pressures of 100 Gs without suffering harm or damage.
If I'm not mistaken, it's like if you go into like a spaceship, right, and then you're experiencing that, like, Even just 10 genes alone is already enough to probably kill somebody. The fact we're talking 10 times more than that, and he has nothing that it's like, no big deal.
No big deal to them. Yeah. Unlimited stamina. Hulk's physiology does not produce fatigue toxins like normal humans, granting him virtually unlimited stamina. This allows him to engage in prolonged battles without tiring.
Literally, if this is the case, you're telling me that this motherfucker could literally continue to fight, doesn't need sleep, doesn't need nothing, literally could just continue on with what he was doing.
So there's numerous depictions of him in the comics, like basically like fighting endlessly. Like there was one scene, I don't know exactly where they were fighting. I almost want to say it looked like kind of the Earth core. And they were basically saying like, you should just give up fighting because he's not going to stop. And, he's basically there just fighting this one dude. And it's like, apparently he's been just there fighting the whole time. But that's the idea. Like he won't ever get tired of, because he doesn't lose that stamina.
Literally, and this is why I'd rather have the Hulk on my side than just piss him off. Like, why would you? This is the one probably being in all of the comic books. I would even go further and even say even probably worse than DC. There's just one dude that you'd rather be best friends with at all times.
Yeah.
This is the one dude I'd be best friends with literally every day.
And so the last one is adaptation. The Hulk has shown the ability to adapt to various environments and situations. For instance, he can breathe underwater and survive in space without the need for oxygen.
I don't know how. No idea how he could survive both in any capacity, whether it was breathing or not breathing underwater and just literally just walking in space like it's nothing. But that's cool. I mean, like, this is my point, guys. Like, when you look at all of these abilities, the reality is that the Hulk...
And then you look at the MCU and what they did to the Hulk, and you go, what the fuck?
That's what I mean. And like I said, when you look at even the characteristics of the actual character and everything else too. I mean, these are just the abilities. I'm just even talking about, like I said, the characteristics of like literally how tall he should be and what he should be doing. And, all these other variables and shit. It's like,
this is
why you should have done this a long time ago.
This is like the Shaws.
Oh God.
Hulk. And then what the MCU gave us was the Walmart Hulk.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. So we got the Walmart version, and then the comics actually has like the Shaws, which is like the best of the best and the most expensive. And
we're gonna try this again. You're saying that Shaws is better than any other place that you ever shop.
Better than fucking Walmart.
You're saying Hannaford's or Market Basket's not better than fucking Shaws?
I would say Shaws is better than fucking Market Basket.
Really? That's a very interesting opinion that you got there, buddy. I'm very surprised.
Have you walked into a Market Basket?
Multiple times. And I've walked into Shaw's multiple times. It depends on which fucking place you're talking about, because I don't know, buddy. I think we have two different opinions here. I don't know. You think that Shaw's is the best? I don't know about that shit.
I'd rather shop at Shaw's than Market Basket or fucking Walmart.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, what about Hannaford's? You wouldn't walk into fucking Hannaford's either?
I mean, if I had a choice between Walmart and Hannaford, I'd rather go to Hannaford.
Well, I figured you would.
We don't have a Shaw's in Manchester, so.
I know. Because it sounds like they're no longer really around as much anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they're out of business is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, guys, and now we're moving on to the next biggest probably event I wouldn't say in comic book history, but definitely in the Marvel history in comics. One of the biggest events that they really downplayed. And it pisses me off because there is so much potential. You could have driven a whole story, just like the Infinity War and everything else, like that could have been prolonged too. There's so much shit that they were like, hey, we're going to really dumb it down in one movie. And yes, I agree with you, man. Technically, they should have never only made it a Captain America movie based on this event, which is Civil War, right? So like Civil War, there's a shit ton of characters. there's a lot of events going on, but really the main focus here is that
they should have waited until the X-Men were.
Oh no, I agree, and you get like a lot of other characters like Luke Cage and like some of the other ones that were involved in a lot of this. But
Yeah.
the main portion of this really event is that you had to be either registered as a superhero or you were going against the government and not being registered, regarding the fact that there had to be rules in place for superheroes because I understand there's more backstory to this, but like basically it was more of the lines of like superheroes were getting out of line, and that there was events that were happening that were causing a lot of basically frustration with with society and the government.
Well, there was one particular incident in the Civil War story.
Okay, well then why don't you go ahead, Matt? Because I know you want to explain this.
The incident that occurred within the Civil War story that's kind of started the whole public outcry and this demand for accountability for superheroes. There's a group of kind of young superheroes that called themselves the New Warriors, and they were attempting to capture a group of villains for a reality TV show. And during the confrontation, there's a villain named Nitro who apparently just explodes, and he kills over 600 people, which included, I guess, a lot of children in this nearby school in Connecticut. And that's kind of this disaster that leads to the U.S. government enacting this Superhuman Registration Act.
So this is where I'll kind of jump in here for a second. Is so this is where they did get in the MCU right, is that Tony Stark was for registration or pro registration versus Cap being he was not for it in a sense. And so this is where you have the divide between Tony and Cap, because these were the two main leaders of both sides of it, right? And so when you look at Tony, he's more working with SHIELD, he's more working with, again, the government, he's doing all this stuff. He wants basically everybody to be accountable for their actions and make sure that everyone's on the same page, where Cap, being the way he is, again, it does involve infringing on the personal freedom and the choices that they're given to make their choices as superheroes. And I'm not, and for his sake, it fears that the misuse of the information and facing superheroes as it reveals also their identities, right? Because because part of that is because they can also be targets. There's so many different things that you're like, okay, which one's great, which one's not? Is it great for the greater good to, register for myself to be a part of this and, be held accountable for my actions no matter what happens, versus no, because I've been keeping my identity a secret. Granted, Steve Rogers is not, fucking, it's clearly everyone knows who the fuck he is, but I'm just saying, if you looked at Peter Parker, or if you looked at other superheroes that don't actually know, a lot of them don't know their names. Now they're potential targets. There's so many things. There's so many possibilities that I can understand why Cap chose the way he did. But, again, who's right, who's versus wrong.
Well, and that was one of the changes. One, in the MCU, it wasn't the Superhuman Registration Act. It was the, Sokovia Accords.
Yeah.
But in the comics, the SHRA required them to not just register with the government, but also reveal the identities, which was different for the MCU, because the MCU, the Sokovia Accords, only required them to operate with this, United Nations oversight, but did not require them to
reveal their identities,
their actual identities. So that was kind of one of the main change of it. But yeah, it was correct, with Tony Stark and leading his side and Steve Rogers leading his side. But with the whole thing, I think we've said it before, there were so many other characters that were involved with it in the comics, like you're talking the X-Men, you're talking Fantastic Four, you're talking so many. I mean, you're almost the whole Marvel roster was
it pretty much is because
involved, and with the MCU, it was limited to the characters that were already introduced in the films, which obviously excluded the X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Well, and not, I mean, pretty much every fucking character that they had during the comic books. I mean, you start to look at, you know, I remember even just seeing like certain, you know, images of like the kind of the event a little bit. Like we're talking, there could have been easily like hundreds of characters easily just in this like comic in a sense, and they're, you know, drawing all the characters to do whatever. You know, I'm not saying like with the MCU, of course, they only had the characters that they had. I mean, you had what Cap, you know, I mean, I'm not going to name them all, but like the ones that we had during that time frame, and then, you know, we really got to see kind of like Ant-Man kind of be portrayed a little bit, you know, with Spider-Man as well, kind of showing up, you know, so we saw a little bit of in Black Panther, you know, so there was like a lot of
Spider-Man, I mean, that was his like first introduction to the MCU.
Right, was because of Civil War, right? But I'm just, and then, you know, even with Black Panther, you know, he kind of gets, you know, I mean, granted, it was more Winter Soldier. Ironically enough, with another Captain America movie, he gets brought into, but you know, like, and then Ant-Man, like he's just, so there's like other characters that are finally kind of being brought in a little bit more. But like, it's interesting to see how, you know, you look at the MCU and you look at the, you know, this event, you know, you're looking at two different, of course, different styles of how you portray the story, because like, you know, for example, you know, granted, I know if anyone hasn't seen it, then you know what, sorry, you shouldn't be listening to this. You know, really at the end of the story of the MCU, when it came to the event, it's like, you know, Tony found out about, you know, basically Bucky who killed his parents, you know, and that random event, like that, of course, never happened in the comics because that wasn't anywhere close to being what was portrayed in the comics. And
no, this, I mean, you're talking like this was a conflict between two sides, and it was a full blown. I mean, when you have something called Civil War, like there literally was a Civil War. I mean, there were key battles, there were significant casualties, and obviously moral dilemmas on both sides. Like Spider-Man initially was in support of registration, and then later he switched sides after seeing like all of the negative consequences.
Right, and technically in the MCU, no, he never did that. He only stuck with Iron Man.
He went with Iron Man, but like in the comic book, Aunt May is actually gunned down when Peter's villains try to take him out. You know, and that's like one of the things that happens in the comic book. But it doesn't obviously happen in the MCU because he's being introduced. Like we don't even know.
Right. And another, I would say, very important piece of this, and Matt and I have already said it, well, beforehand, is that, yes, Cap technically does die in this series because that is something that, I know Crossbones, which you do see, I believe, actually in that movie.
This is like see when him. There's the war kind of culminates to like this massive battle in New York, and this is where, you know, Captain America realizing the collateral damage and the harm being done to civilians, he surrenders himself and is ultimately like arrested. When he is surrendering, this is when Crossbones kills him, and it kind of gets weird after that because you know it's one of those things like, although you know Captain America is dead, like his body, you know, his essence is kind of locked in this like weird fixed like space time
continuum. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Yeah.
And this is like, you know, Mr. Fantastic and Hank Pym, you know, are trying to restore him to his body, and then Red Skull takes it over. You know, you got Bucky Barnes and, you know, Rogers fighting for control over his body against Red Skull, and ultimately they win. And, you know, Steve Rogers gets control of his own body again. And at the end of all this, like right at the very, very tail end of Civil War is when you have Steve Rogers considering retirement, handing the role of Captain America to who?
I know, Bucky Barnes, which is
Bucky
correct.
Barnes and not Sam like the MCU.
No, because originally you're right. Bucky Barnes was the very first one to don that persona of Cap, and then of course later on doesn't do so hot. And then I know, technically Cap becomes back to being Captain America again, and then a later on version of, or really the Young Avengers version, is when really Falcon becomes Cap. But again, we're talking like many years later. We're talking like current day kind of stuff. Nothing.
Yeah, and then in the comics, when the conflict ends with the surrender and all that, like Tony Stark actually becomes the head of Shield in the comics,
which I find that interesting because Nick Fury's out of the picture clearly.
Yeah. And in the film ends with like the Avengers being kind of fractured and divided. Captain America and Iron Man never really fully reconcile at the end of that movie.
It basically takes up until
Steve Rogers like leaves the shield behind, so it doesn't end with his assassination, obviously, but it doesn't really like end in the same way. So it's like
they really don't. I mean, again, they don't see each other until Endgame,
right?
Because even in Infinity War, they don't do anything. They're both doing two separate things, and then of course that's when they have to come together and try to hash it out again. But like, I don't know, man. It's like I said, when you start to look at, actually, like prime example right here. So like, the central, figures, right? So yes, of course, Tony Stark, Cap. We've already kind of mentioned that, but like, X-Men, Fantastic Four. I mean, we even kind of mentioned like Luke Cage. I mean, I'm talking
I think Fantastic Four. I think initially I think it was either Fantastic Four or it was the X-Men at first.
I
believe the X-Men at first were kind of like, we're washing our hands of this, like we're not taking a side at all. And then
they already had their own issues they had to clearly deal with,
right? And then I think they were kind of brought into choosing a side. But I think there were definitely. You look at the MCU roster, and they were part of this, like villains and the heroes. But like, you look at the storylines between the two of them, and they had similar themes, but like the comics were liberty versus security, personal freedom, government control, but it was a darker, more complex like tone. And in the MCU, I think the films like focus more on like personal relationships, loyalty, the trust among the Avengers, and like maintaining like that balance between serious and like the lighter moments, which a lot of the movies kind of tend to focus on the lighter moments too. But
I also think of like, when you look at, if I'm not mistaken, I think Wanda and Vision were also separate. But like, if we're talking about like relationships and stuff like that too, like in the movies, Wanda was actually with Cap, and I believe Vision was with Iron Man. So that love interest, in a sense, it's like they split them apart because they were like, well, he's right. No, well, he's right, and no, you're wrong, and so like it was this constant kind of like battle between, even though they're like, well, he's right because of this, and it's like, well, reality is like in the comics, it's like. I mean, you're talking, again, you want to talk about mass casualties, you're talking about hundreds of superheroes going after each other. Literally, it'd be, and I'll say it, it's just like the Civil War of back in the day, man. That's literally the same thing, but in this case, we're fighting against our own people, and we're just deciding on who's right versus wrong. And ultimately, it doesn't get anywhere, because that's basically what the end of the story basically tells us. But, I mean... It's just crazy though, like when you look at the fact that, in the comics that, we're talking multiple issues, we're talking multiple, it's like, it's a continuation, and we're talking for a long time.
Yeah.
MCU did it in, 2 fucking hours? 2.5 maybe?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, Civil War is, it is what it is. I think it's still a decent movie.
Oh, no. It's
as
hard.
Far as Civil War, as a concept that the comics did, I don't think that they did it just enough justice.
No.
When you actually pick up the books and you actually read through Civil War, like, yeah, I mean, characters died and Like it was bad.
Well, it was gore. It was kind of gory. It was kind of the fact that, you know, you're realizing that everyone in these comics were basically flawed, you know, in that there was no real right answer to the problem. You know, the real right answer, I guess, in both of their cases is that, yes, do they need to be held accountable? Sure. Because every day they're going to wear a suit, they're going to do all this, and, you know, they need to have the responsibility and the justice to, you know, be able to give the society a hope in believing superheroes in a sense. But you need to also give them the self kind of preservation of and also freedom to realize that, yes, they are also regular people and that they also need to have that separation, because of the reality is if they have loved ones and they know that if anyone found out about their true selves, that their own family members, their loved ones, everything else is being compromised. So it's knowing that at the end of the day, yes, they need to be responsible, but at the end of the day, they also need to make sure that they have their own, again, self-preservation, like that freedom to basically say, hey, like, I have my life and I will do what's great for the greater good.
You know what?
It's hard to say, like, who's right in that situation.
I would almost go out on a limb and say that I almost think that this was more focused on the Avengers, and you being Marvel. I mean, not that I'm Marvel, but if I had any say with Marvel, you could probably still do a series of Civil War movies at this point in time.
Literally,
because you could say that these Sokovia Accords are not the
end all be all in a sense.
Well, they're just not the Superhuman Registration Act. It's not the same.
No, you're absolutely right.
You could easily have a incident that's similar to this that occurred now with all of the characters that Marvel has now introduced.
Right.
Especially with them introducing Fantastic Four.
Yep.
And because I mean, now we're kind of almost getting out of the multiverse kind of thing. And we're getting into more of the mutant era. Right? Like
to a degree. I mean, yeah.
I think you're going to see more mutants being involved within Marvel,
which is great, but I also know that right now and I keep telling you this, they're gonna somehow find a way to still use that multiverse until whenever they can figure it out, they're gonna use it as some sort of a crutch.
They probably will, but I still think that, like, you could still do these, you know, and I'm going to say movies, because this needs to be more than just one movie, not just focused on Captain America, but like you could still do this very same thing. And I know that they were trying to do like a registration or whatever, and you could be like, well, they already tried to. No, they were doing the Sokovia Accords, which is different.
Right. It was an event that caused said conversation to be brought up by the United Nations.
And ultimately, it's nowhere, and it didn't go anywhere close to what the actual Civil War comic books did.
Well, and the reason why I agree with you is that because basically after the event, after basically Tony and Cap were like, you know, he's like, give me back my shield, and he throws it off the ground and he fucking leaves. There actually is no resolution to this, because all what happens is they split up, they do their thing, and then, well, of course, really Cap gets captured and, you know, he gets escaped and whatever. But there is no, it's like, it almost ceased to exist. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore, because, of course, now the biggest threat is that, you know, people have been gone for the last 5 fucking years, and now
right.
They came back. But the problem is with that is, like, they never once said, again, I'll say it, like, whose side are you on? Like, you know, there was no, like, resolution of the problem. There was no nothing, because it seemed like it was just absolved. And it was
the only problem was how they can't do it now is because, well, there's no fucking Tony Stark and there's no fucking
yeah. So it's kind of hard to redo the whole thing unless snap and you forget about the whole damn thing and you go back to what you were doing.
Well, I mean, you can always have you know, Chris Evans come back and do some older stories of Civil War with these guys and do this You know,
You could. Just like you could do with RDJ, but I mean, who knows what the fuck they're going to do now with him, with Doctor Doom and everything else that they're trying to do. But I know it is what it is. And I mean, until next time, guys, this is what, we don't know. This is all the what ifs. This is all the things that could have been, should have been, could have been, fucking whatever. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, we sit here and we wonder what the fuck Marvel's going to do. And, it's pretty sad that Matt actually made a comment that I was very surprised that he made. What was that comment, man?
When we were outside, I said, it's quite surprising when I actually like what DC is doing than I do what Marvel's doing.
And that's a sad day. That's the day I never thought Matt would ever say to me. And I liked it.
And now I do, being the one in the room who has seen Deadpool and Wolverine, I do want to say like, oh, MCU is so on right now. I think they're going to do good. But I think it's like one of those things that's like...
It's like a one-hit wonder.
It's going to be a one-hit wonder because then as soon as they get back to Agatha All Along and all this other shit starts coming out, they're going to go right back to what they were doing before. And we're going to just go back to complaining about everything that they're doing.
And basically, Matt and I will say, when is enough kind of a deal. Like, when do we find that line?
When are we going to see Hulkster?
And who the fuck is he? Because apparently we don't know who the fuck he is.
Yeah, brother.
Come here, brother. Hulkamania here.
Not that Hulkster.
Oh, damn it. I thought it was him. Come on. That'd be funny as hell if he came out of nowhere and it's like, I'm a young Avenger, brother.
Young Avengers, brother.
He's like, this is Randy Macho Man Savage here. And he's like, what the fuck is that? Are you constipated? Like, he's like, well, Hulkamania, brother. You're like, is that all you know? You're like, yep, that's all I got for you.
These webs out of my
asshole. Yeah, brother. Fucking get out of here. I don't know what's going on today. Anyways, guys and gals, we appreciate everything you guys do. And again, when it comes down to this shit, we don't fucking know. We're just saying it because you know what? We're just two dudes, two different mics, doing it every single night.
Make sure you let us know who won the fight. It was me, but
I still think he cheated. But anyways, guys, until next time, brothers,
stay geeky.